Song selection. This guitarist is enjoying himself. I love it.
Infinity, oh Lord. Put it in, oh Lord.
She says infinity, oh. She said make I put it in.
We are the Kalahuska. We are the Kalahuska. They don't blame me or pay for a sinner. You did this for the boss salary. Take a good fire for the fire. Send the wire. Like you want to hammer and I know for the fire. Because feel like say you did for the fire. So the beats all like it do.
She feel like
Song selection. This guitarist is enjoying himself. I love it.
Infinity, oh Lord.
she said make I put it in.
Put it in, oh Lord.
She says infinity, oh. She said make I put it in.
We are the Kalahuska. We are the Kalahuska. They don't blame me or pay for a sinner. You did this for the boss salary. Take a good fire for the fire. Send the wire. Like you want to hammer and I know for the fire. Because feel like say you did for the fire. So the beats all like it do.
She feel like
la busca. Voy a teca la busca. Can you not show yourself? Do what you do. Inspire matter you finish. They don't blame me or take for a sinner. You did this for the boss salary. Make I put fire for the fire. The wire, night walk to Ama and I know for the fire. Always feel like say you did for the fire. So the beat so like it do me lala.
Infinity, oh Lord.
She said make I put it in.
Put it in, oh Lord.
She said till infinity, oh. She said make I put it in.
Voy a teca la busca. Voy a teca la busca. Can you not show yourself? Do what you do. Inspire matter you finish. They don't blame me or take for a sinner. You did this for the boss salary. Make I put fire for the fire. The wire, night walk to Ama and I know for the fire. Always feel like say you did for the fire. So the beat so like it do me lala.
Infinity, oh Lord.
She said make I put it in.
Put it in.
We are take a la busca. We are take a la busca. Yeah, you can show yourself. You want to use fire matter. They don't blame me or tape for a sinner. You need to sing for the boss salary. Make I push fire for the fire. The wire, now you want to hammer and I don't go retire. Cause feel like say you did for the choir. So the beats all like it do.
Song selection. This guitarist is enjoying himself. I love it.
Infinity, oh no, no.
She say make I put it in.
Now put it in, oh no, no.
She say till infinity, oh. She say make I put it in.
We are take a la busca. We are take a la busca. Yeah, you can show yourself. You want to use fire matter. They don't blame me or tape for a sinner. You need to sing for the boss salary. Make I push fire for the fire. The wire, now you want to hammer and I don't go retire. Cause feel like say you did for the choir. So the beats all like it do.
Make a put it
Kalauska. We are take Kalauska. Very much show yourself. You want to do. This career matter. They don't blame me or take for a sinner. You did listen to the boy salary. Make I put fire for the fire. The wire, now you want to hammer and I don't go retire. Always feel like say you did it for the choir. So the beat so like it do the lala.
Hello and welcome to my coding session for today. So the agenda for, first of all, my name is Ebera Banano, and if I just see me for the first time. But before we move on, I really want to talk about what I was able to accomplish last week. Last week, I actually ported the Stream Native, and Stream Native happens to be one of the company behind Apache Pulsar. So I ported one of their samples from there, which was delayed messaging. Actually, that message at that exercise or that session actually helped me to discover that they deliver at and deliver after an event time. They're a kind of not flaky. They are giving on how do I put it? Unexpected behavior. So due to the fact that I was actually using a long at the data time, instead of just making it, and once I'm using a long, and the user can actually pass a value in seconds, which the system will convert to milliseconds, or could actually pass, which could cause a lot of issues. So I actually detected that thanks to the exercise that I did, thanks to the porting that I did last week, so I was able to fix it and release a new version of Sharp Pulsar. Please, I would like to get your feedback on how Sharp Pulsar is performing. So I was able to get the error and I fixed it. So it was a good exercise. Today I'm going to do a run through of what I did last week. So now, before I move on, my agenda is in two right now. One of it is that I'm going to port another example from the Stream Native code base. To be honest with you, I've not touched the code. I don't know how I'm going to go about it. So I'm doing this live. And the second one has to do with a Slack message someone posted, and he spoke about having having a topic with different schemas, like having the same producer producing with different schemas. Now, I actually sat down, actually had that kind of requirement. I was actually thinking about how can I actually have, for instance, if I have a user topic, that is, the topic is actually created for that particular user. And I have an application that has maybe, for instance, payment, booking, um, grocery, then maybe probably betting and all that, or SMS email, which the user could actually make use of. Now, there are two things. If I want to use one particular topic, I don't want to create a namespace for the user. Then under the namespace, user namespace, create different topics. Then how can I go about it? I actually thought about probably I'll create a schema that has to do with maybe for instance a byte array without any specific definition for it. So, but there's another challenge there. I thought of it that if I'm going to do that, then I have to ask the question, what's the purpose of the topic? Now, if I was eventually going to query the topic, the data in the topic using SQL, then it becomes an issue because definitely I have to also deserialize the message once I get it from the SQL endpoint. That means I'm actually limited in what, when it comes to filtering, I can't filter because now there's no columns. Everything is being realized as the byte array. So the question I will ask is, what is the purpose of the topic? Is it just a transient topic? Like the purpose of it is just to dispatch messages to other parts. For instance, if you have microservices and the purpose of the topic is to get the messages and determine the endpoint to which it can send the message to, fine. But I don't think one, I've tried it, you can have multiple schemas, different schema definitions for a particular topic. I've tried it and I was getting invalid schema, incompatible schema exemptions. So, and I was also looking at the generic record. How generic is it? So I came to understand that there's actually a difference between something being generic and dynamic. Generic in the sense that before runtime or at compile time, the fields are known ahead of time. But if it is dynamic, then you don't know the field, you don't know the properties that you will need. So that the generic record doesn't actually support dynamic messages. That is a message that you don't know the columns, for instance, you don't know the field, you don't know the properties. So that means what it means is you can just apply. It doesn't have a concrete schema. You can just pass in, for instance, a string schema. You can pass in an average schema. You can pass in a byte array byte schema. So in this what I'm going to do in this video streaming is I'm going to see how can we actually accomplish a dynamic message. Like, since we being generic doesn't mean that it's dynamic, so how can we actually accomplish something like that? You don't want to care about the field, you don't want to care about the properties, you just want the message to be passed along, and once it gets to the consuming point, then they can handle it. They will have known the field to look for. This is something I actually did when I was my startup then. I didn't want to care about. I didn't want to create this what we call data transfer object. I didn't want to create for each message type. Like if for instance we have like millions, if we can have a million message type that we need to send. If you are to go the route of creating a data transfer object, that means you are going to create for each message type you are going to create. Um, you are going to create a data type for it, a data transfer object. I think that's where, for instance, things like JSON comes in. And if you understand dictionary very well, then you'll be able to understand that you can actually serialize a dictionary object with JSON. In that kind of way, the message becomes dynamic. You don't need to care about your schema becomes in a way. Let me put it in a way. It becomes also a dynamic schema because all you need to do is to make sure that you add a flag to it to determine which services the message is for. But the rest of the properties, the rest of the data could actually be put into a dictionary object or serialized to JSON. That's what I actually did. So, but let me not talk too much. I'm going to just go ahead and show you what prompted this discussion. So it was actually a chat. It's actually a Slack message that I saw, and I actually thought of it. The response, the person said maybe you can try using generic record, and then on the consumer side try to visualize it based on type. Honestly, I think this is how you can go about it, because, like I said, what is actually asking about? I don't know, but I know Kafka. When I was making research towards it, and I think Kafka said something about their new schema registry that you can actually have. You can actually have multiple schemas for different schemas for the same topic. But I don't know if that will ever be possible in Pulsar. So what it's actually asking about is having different schemas, like for one particular topic. I tried it and I was getting schema incompatibility exemptions which thrown. So another way to go about is to use generic record, and I'll keep emphasizing it. Generic doesn't mean dynamic. I think it's really important. Why I said so is this. What to show you. So I actually went through some tests to actually determine if I actually use generic record to dynamically populate a message, not knowing the data types, not knowing the field. But it turns out that for instance, if I was to create a generic record and I'm going to add a key to it, for instance, I call it string data or feature, that means that object or that key already exists. I can't just add it from nowhere. So if I do this, it's going to throw what will they call it? Field not found exemption for me. So I tried to work around this to see if it was even possible at all to dynamically add this field that is not relying on the class object to provide the field. I tried to tweak whichever way I could, but I couldn't. I just came to the conclusion that when we are talking about generic, it should also make a difference that generic is not also the same thing as dynamic object, where you don't know the field and you don't know the properties. But in a case where you want to create something like that, that is something that is dynamic, What I did was you can use what I call a dictionary object, because you can just kind of visualize it that the class you create is simply a dictionary. The classes you create, the object you create, you can just look at it, it's simply a dictionary. Just that it's actually concrete, a concrete implementation. So you don't need to kind of you already know without trying to get the key or the value. So you just look at it that the classes that you create is actually a dictionary. So just imagine it that way. Then you can begin to see the power of the dictionary, because it's left for you on how you communicate with your front end team, the kind of field they should expect, or you serialize a dictionary to a JSON. But usually, what I do is, in a case where I want my message object to be dynamic, what I do is to use a dictionary. So in this case, let's move on. Let me just so what I've done here is actually to try to use a generic record to see if I could actually solve the problem, or see if generic record actually works when it comes to having different schemas for the same topic. It doesn't work. Sorry about that. It doesn't work. It still depends on the schema. That is, if you are creating a generic record, you still need to supply in. You still need to supply in the schema. That just it. And when you are creating a producer, it actually registers that schema on the server side. So which means there's no escaping the fact that they are going to use the same schema for the same topic. So like I said, generic record doesn't really mean that you can create a dynamic schema for a topic. It's just that it can take in any form of schema. Well, whichever schema it takes in has to be known ahead of time. So, and I said, if you want to actually do something like a dynamic messaging, probably you should use a dictionary. Okay, so in this case now, I have this is what I have done in the light of using different schemas for my topic. What I did was I created a complex generic data. Now, the first line feature that me if I'm actually working on a microservice environment where we have different microservices, and there is kind of a gateway through which I distribute, or kind of a distributor through which I distribute the messages to other microservices. Then this feature flag helps me to know the complex data that I'm dealing with, so that the necessary, or or like, how do I put it? The endpoint, or the service for which it's meant for, is able to actually handle it. So another option when I was talking about dynamic data is to use dictionary, because I said you should just kind of visualize your class as a dictionary. That's where I see it, with key and value. That's one way. Then definitely the consuming service have to be able to know the keys or the data to actually get. Or another way is actually use a byte array. Then you serialize your class object into bytes. For instance, this is a complex data which I want to serialize to byte array here. I think that is another way to go about it. So if you don't want to use a dictionary, then definitely Alpha doesn't actually support objects. Alpha doesn't support objects. If you want to use a dictionary, then you can use your class. Use any class at all, as long as the consuming service knows the type, what to expect. you can just serialize the class to byte, which is what I've done here. I take this, I convert it to byte, then I send it to the server. Then at the consuming side, I know that what I'm expecting back is a complete data. I deserialize it to complete data back. Let me show you how I do that. So now this is it here. So I want to actually send in that complex data. I want to use in a way I could actually do this. To be honest, I could actually do this without generic record. That's the truth. I could actually do this without generic record. Though that I was forced to do this when I tried to see if I could actually have different schema definitions. There's a difference between, I'm not talking about different schema versions, but definitions. I couldn't do that. So I could actually serialize the class object to bytes. And this is the logic. So now I'm using matter to convert my object to byte array. I've been getting a lot of tweets that have to do with, I've been seeing a lot of tweets on my timeline on Twitter that have to do with performance. So I'm becoming a lot aware of performances. I do not know how performant this is. Like when you have an enterprise system where you need to be serializing, I don't know, objects to byte. I don't know how performant this is. But for this particular purpose, this works for my use case. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave this place now. And I'm going to just create an example from this in our example repo. So let's move on. I'm going to bring up the...
There's a party in your head, I can see it. Your eyes, they tell me everything.
Let's go.
And even if you don't wanna believe me, the truth is just too clear to see. You're fighting with the devil on your shoulder, 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 shoulder. And I'm not your enemy, I just wanna get to know ya, know ya. No, yeah, no, yeah.
And okay, one more thing I also learned, I discovered why one more thing I actually discovered during my experiment was that it could actually produce a generic record messages. It could actually use a generic Afro schema in the for the producer, but for the consumer, you don't use that. You rather use octo-consume. You rather use octo-consume, which in a way returns high generic record. So I tried to send in generic Afro schema to the consumer, but it was showing an exemption. So probably generic record is just actually meant for consumer, not actually for the producer. But if you can actually send a generic record message to the server. So let's move on from
when
there.
you fall in love, it's innocent. I don't know if you can win. Can you give in? I know you can, baby. Eyes, you're vacant. I wanna see you in the morning. Wake up when you say hello to the world. I wanna look
I could also make this thinner, but all I need to do is to copy and paste.
Your vacant eyes.
So we are going to go and cut Okay, so we are done with the producer. So what we are trying to do is so whatever it is that I'm doing here could actually be done with the byte schema or the string schema. All you need to do is to convert your object. For instance, in our case here, is to convert the object to byte. I think that is well, the definition of it is a schema as well. Your data object, your data transfer object, the class that is defined for your data is actually a schema, but not in the way that Pulsar defines it or builds it to be. Like I would say, it's actually really very important to actually consider what is the purpose of the topic. Now, are you going to use SQL to query the data back? If you are going to use SQL to query the data back, then you don't have a lot of flexibility, or will I call it now, a lot of let me use the word bargaining power. Because one, if I was actually to send this data as a byte array in order to use one topic for all the messaging, then if I need to query a product by probably sales or probably by the product ID, then I have no option than to retrieve all the messages, deserialize it, then get what I'm looking for. So it's not about I've learned something while developing my startup, my product then was don't try to be smart, because the software will outsmart you when the time comes. So it's actually good to look at projects ahead to know that, okay, if I'm actually to use a topic, I'm going to use any form of, now I'm going to call it schema now, but not in the way that Pulsar defines schema. Now, how you represent the data, you want to use different, okay, let's put it this way, different representation of your data or your information in a topic, then you can actually go this route by converting your object to a byte array or to byte, and you get what you want. That is just it. You get what you want, but there will come a time that you won't get what you want. If you are planning of actually writing an SQL query, well, in this world of enterprise, in this world of software, consumer app, you can't tell. The time might come that you may need to run a query on. You don't want to use consumer right now. You just want to go through the back door, use SQL query to get it. But once that happens, you've kind of compressed, you've kind of limited, what will I call it? Can I use the term bandwidth? Because you've limited, or what I call it now, you've narrowed your gates into the data. So if you don't care about that, now I ask, what is the essence or what's the purpose of the topic? Is it just to dispatch messages? Well, that is okay. But if it's actually, for instance, you're writing a user application and you want each user, one topic per user, and that topic to handle everything that pertains to that user. Well, it will work fine if that topic is just more like a gateway. It's not actually where it's not actually the source of your information. You just want to use it in order to limit resources. Or if you plan of persisting the data for a long time, then you have to consider your design. I'm just saying this from because I've worked with SQL version of Pulsar. So I know that there are cases that I don't want to use consumer. I just want to use SQL to query it because I can actually filter it using where clause. So if you shrink, if you compress your data this way, then I'm sorry, I don't know how you're going to use that except you want to rely on them. So let's move on. I've actually explained that. So this works fine. If this is your aim or this is your goal, the first thing you need is that, first of all, generic schema also needs a schema. I think that is the only schema that doesn't have its own schema defined. So you're actually defining a schema, but in this type of way, there's no actually, it's not actually, it's how they call it now. How they call it, the word for it, is it concrete? It's not actually concrete, but albeit you are still passing a schema, and it's that schema that you are passing in that will actually be registered on the server. So once that is registered, trying to use another schema that has a different entire, except you want to use what we call aliases, where you decorate your schema definition with aliases, so that the server knows that okay, this is actually it's actually the same schema, but just that there are a little bit of changes. So the server knows that you use aliases. If you want to use a different schema, then definitely that will be it's a different schema version. So well, you can use a different schema, but definitely you have to use aliases when you're defining your schema. So the server knows that it's still the same. You can actually, the old data can actually be serialized to the new schema. Well, that is it. But trying to use a different schema definition won't work. I don't know if it will work, but according to my experiment, it won't. So now you need to actually determine what kind of schema, the generic schema you hold. So in our case here, we are saying it's Afro schema, and we're going to derive our definition from our class object, which is complex generic data. And when we do that, we are simply going to expect a generic record message back. So we are not going to expect, that is the tricky thing there. Now, if you have a complex generic data, it's only useful when we want to do something like add field, the value of a field. But when it comes to producing and consuming, we only get a generic record back, not the actual class itself. Where that one is useful, it's only useful when you want to, for instance, set the value. As I'm seeing here, you're going to set the feature, and that's where it's useful. But after it's produced and stored in the server, it's of no use anymore. When you're consuming it back, you only get a generic implementation, be it generic record, generic Afro record, but you don't actually get your original spec the way it was, just for determining the fields that are included in the schema. That's the only thing. So you can see here that I have here as my object type as generic record. And when I'm producing to the server, I'm using generic Afro record. So the purpose of my class is just to enable me to do this, to determine the field and the data type of that field. But after that, once you send it to the server sees a generic record. So now I'm going to move on to the consumption side so that we can. So let me go to the. In the industry, copy and paste. There's something I particularly learned from my experience while developing my platform. They call it, we call it, once you are able to solve a problem, you can actually copy it somewhere else. Like I'm doing now. I actually took a lot of time last week to actually put this over. But now all I need to do is just copy, change a few lines, voila. That's what we do. Oh, sorry about that. I been left in the dark. Just few minutes, the gem will be back on back online. Sorry about that, folks. I've been left in the dark. In a few minutes, in a few seconds now, the gem will be back. So, I just have a perfect. I said in a few seconds, the gem will be back and on the man of God. So, keep on doing. I mentioned earlier that the purpose of us defining a class for messages is not because it's going to be stored that way at the server side, but rather is for us to determine the fields in the schema. That is the purpose. So if you are to produce message with generic record, then you don't expect to get the class exactly as it was that you sent it. What that means is this. In our case now, you can see that I'm actually reading the message. And what I'm getting in response is just a generic record. That's what we're expecting. Now, that's what we send to the server. So when I read it, then I have to get the field. Just exactly as we added it. Same way as we said it, we also get it back. I think everything should be set for us to run this sample. So I have to go to, then I have to let me see. Okay, I need to set the producer as well. So I have to run
I can't live without you. I can't breathe without you.
Okay, so So let me check if my Docker is running. Oh, sorry, Docker is not running, so I need to start Docker so that I can test the sample. So, folks, I was actually thinking I'll be able to go to my sample from the Shred Native samples, but I can't do that. It's already late, so I'll wrap up with this. I spent most of my time speaking, and I was actually talking about how I feel. Okay, I think I made a difference. That I think it was I think I misunderstood initially what I could do with a generic record. So I arrived at the conclusion that generic and dynamic are not the same thing. I made mention of generic. Generic is a type that at you compile time that is determined. But a dynamic is something that even the server doesn't know. It's you as a programmer that knows what you expect once that message is delivered. So that being said, I know that in Kafka they have what we call schema registry. I don't know. I didn't read through it. I didn't read deep through it, but when I was googling it, I saw that they said with so and so version, you will be able to have multiple schemas for the topic. Then I raised the question that if you are to have multiple schemas, or let me call it if you want to have different, okay, let's put it this way. If you want to have different representation of your information under one topic, then what's the purpose of that topic? Is it to dispatch messages to other concrete services or topic? And will you be using SQL? Because I wonder how. I'm trying to think about it. I'm wondering how Trino connector will handle such situation or such circumstances or such. I'm just wondering. I want you. Maybe probably it will say something like select from the standard, like select from, for instance, in our case, I said, if I'm going to say, okay, I said select from, if I say, okay, select from generic topic in schema 2 or with schema 2. Like, what I mean by that is, you actually remember this short key. So what I mean by that is, you say select all from what am I typing? So what I'm looking at, if you are to have something like that, then we will have different schemas for a particular topic. Then how do we curate? And for example, probably, because definitely how is it going to handle the different schema definitions. For instance, how will it handle different columns? Rather, so I feel if I thought it's going to happen, probably this is how I'm going to go about select from generic topic with schema, the name of the schema, so that the system knows that you're going to serialize this message using this schema. I think, I hope Pulsar guys are watching me. Probably this is how, maybe if we have to do something like that. I don't know, but I don't know how efficient it's going to be, how performant something like this is going to be. But I'm trying to imagine that if you have to have that kind of feature, or that kind of ability, then how do you go about determining which schema to use? And what happens where the schema is not found? Just thinking about so many things you can do. I don't know if this feature actually exists. I don't know. I'm just looking at this from my head, that if you have to have something like this. Probably this is how we go about querying it. If that is possible, then no qualms. So, folks, I need to go. I want to run along and try out my code. So let's move on. Okay. Of course, I need to build it. So we need to start up the okay. Let's hope that there's no error. Okay. So I need to create another terminal. Okay, first of all, it says that how is that? Oh, sorry, I have a topic like that, so sorry, I need to set this to I already have. While I was testing it, I created a topic called so my bad. So I actually have actually have another topic that I created. Okay. Oh, sorry. Oh, jeez. I was actually running the different. Man. I guess I'm getting old age. So I need to run the consumer now. Sorry, that's not the consumer. So let's go. Probably won't get any response. Okay. So, folks, this is where I call it a day. We've been able to walk through some samples on how to use the record in Pulsar. So next week, God willing, I'll be doing another session, probably with the with dead letters, because since I've been working with, or since I've been working on Pulsar, I've never ever tried the dead letter. So, and one benefit that has for Sharp Pulsar is that I get to discover bugs. So instead of waiting for user to report it, using it myself, I'm able to detect any deficiency. And that was thing that helped me last week with the lead message. I was able to discover that I'm taking an unreliable path. That is, I might not be able to determine. I'm okay. What I did was I eventually enforced. That is, I forced user to submit or to input a particular type of data. Someone can input one at a millisecond, and it creates an issue, and the result becomes unexpected. It happens. It does happen in production as well. I've heard of people that have deleted a production database by mistake. So, folks, once again, my name is Ebere Abanonu. I created the client, self-poster client for Apache Pulsar. I'm actually a freelancer. I'm also looking for a full-time job. I'm also available in case you need to consult me or you need me to work with your team. There are a lot of things I can do, or there are a lot of things I'm able to do, but I've not found the opportunity to do them. So I'm looking for opportunity to do what I can do to the best of my ability. And I love challenges. When I mean I love challenges, I don't mean I love the challenge that makes someone to sorrow. Because I needed to differentiate that. Because you say I love challenges, and not the kind of challenges that causes sorrow, but challenges that challenges my mental ability. That makes me to sit down and come up with a good solution to a software product or project. So I'm available. You can always get me on Slack, on my Twitter. Probably if you need my phone number, why not? I'm willing to share it. I'm also a freelancer in Upwork. So folks, see you guys and bye.
Song selection. This guitarist is enjoying himself. I love it.
Don't blame me. collect boy salary. Make I put fire for the fire. Send you the wire. Now you want go am and I don't go retire. Boys feel like say you day for the choir. So the beat so like it do me lala.
Song selection. This guitarist is enjoying himself. I love it.
Take Kalaruska. We are take Kalaruska. You can show yourself. Do what you do. This career matter you feel. They don't blame me or take for a sinner. You did use collect boy salary. Make I put fire for the fire. The wire, now you want go am and I don't go retire. Boys feel like say you day for the choir. So the beat so